There you go, right there. Right there. Wave your hand, William. Wave your hand. Still at PS 239 now. His teacher's here. Is teacher here too? All right, thank you for all you do. So, William, I haven't seen you since that day, but I want to tell you something. I've used that story about 1,000 times. And because if our pre-K children can say metamorphosis, then New York City public schools can do anything. And our job has to be to create schools as exceptional as our children. As simple a mission, as clear a mission as that. Nuestros alumnos son excepcionales. Nuestras escuelas lo deben ser también. Our schools should be as good as our children. They can be, they must be. Now, remember, our schools once upon a time, they were just assumed by so many to never have potential, to never be able to change and get better. They were put down, they were left for dead. But we have proven with a vision of equity and excellence that schools can get better and they can get better quickly, and now we've got a lot more to do. So it begins even before a child gets to school. You know, Charlene talked about the power of new family home visits, what it means for the parents. Well, I tell you what it means for the kids. It means that it helps their brain development to have parents who are getting that support. The studies prove that these new family home visits help children develop more quickly before they ever walk in a classroom. So then let's go to not just pre-K, but 3K. They said pre-K couldn't be done. No one saw 3K coming. But now I'm proud to tell you in September it'll be in 4 more districts. District 12 in the Bronx, District 29, Southeast Queens, District 1 in Chinatown, Lower East Side, and East Village, District 14 in Greenpoint and Williamsburg. As of September, we will be in half of all the school districts in this city with 3K and more to come. 3rd grade literacy. This is something you're going to hear a lot more from Chancellor Carranza and I in the next few weeks, because this is a story that's not being told. We're going to get our kids reading more and more on grade level by 3rd grade. It's one of the great indicators of academic potential and success. We are going to do that, and already, for the first time in New York City history, there are hundreds of reading coaches in our schools right this minute, helping teachers to get better, helping kids to get better. Some of them may be here today. Let's thank those reading coaches for all they're doing. Dermot and Richard are sitting next to each other, so Dermot, you're not going to be upset if Richard borrows from Comstat a little here, borrows something that's worked so well to make the city safer. We're now going to start EduStat. Every school is going to get the kind of support it needs, and we're going to know what school needs what, because we're going to be paying attention with the same exact strategies that made us safer. You two, go get dinner together. He'll explain it. So, now, it's not just about academics. It's about heart and soul. It's about hope. It's about potential. So, let's be clear. Our children need role models. They not just need textbooks, they need role models. We have already hired 1,000 more men of color teachers. We're going to do 1,000 more on top of that. Finally, I'm going to say something that if you think this indicates that somehow I mistakenly believe marijuana is already legal in New York State, thank you, Julia. Someone got it. You may think that what I'm saying here can't possibly be true. But in fact, year by year, the graduation rate in New York City is climbing because of so many good people in this room. Year by year, we're getting stronger and stronger. A day is coming in the next few years when the city of New York will surpass the graduation rate for the United States of America. Let's thank our educators for making that possible. So now I want to talk to you about the third area, and this is about the lives we live and how we feel our communities, our neighborhoods. And we know our public schools are one of the things that defines our neighborhoods. But something else that really sets the character, that really makes us feel the place we are, is our small businesses, right? Our mom and pop stores that we love, that represent our community, that really are part of what makes it so special, and we have to save them. We have to devote ourselves to doing things we've never done before to protect small businesses that are under more danger than they've ever been in the history of this city. Look at this video.
Most of us are working class. We don't have much money, but we have Nears. Nears is our museum. It housed our history. The first beer that we have was at Nears. The first baby shower we have at Nears. And there's thousands of memories like that that we're trying to save. I would say that we got very lucky. Yes, getting on the phone and speaking to the mayor, it was a darn miracle. With 2 days before we closed down forever, after 190 years, we're lucky. You know, these local business, when you go into that shop, you know the owner, you know that manager. They live in the neighborhood, and that's the heart and soul. And that's why it's so important to say, not this one. Just please, not this one.
So a few weeks ago, I opened up the paper in the morning and I read about this bar in Woodhaven, Queens. I'd heard about it a little bit before, but I didn't realize it's 190 years old. I'm reading this article. I'm not going to lie to you for a second. I read it, I felt pain. How on earth could a 190-year-old pillar of the Woodhaven community, how on earth could that be in danger? But the article said it was going to close in 2 days. And I am going to tell you, I went through the whole cycle of feeling. Anger, and then trying to think, what could we do? And then thinking, oh, they've only got 2 days, it's probably too late. And I got to a point of a little bit of resignation. An hour or two later, I was on WNYC, and a call comes in from the owner of Nears. And he says that even though he's only got 2 days left, that this is part of a community, that people love it, that generation after generation have cherished it, and he's trying with all his heart and soul to find a way to save it. And I heard that he was willing to fight, and it made me willing to fight. We called Loy. In the hours after that, our small business services team immediately connected with him, found a way to get him resources, found a way to get him help. Thank you to the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the elected officials. Everyone did something you could not imagine. In a matter of hours, Nears was saved. Let's thank Loy for all he does for the Woodhaven community. That night, I thought it was important to sample his products, to be able, I just felt I needed to give a first-hand account of what the bar meant to the community. It would have been rude not to. So we had a celebration. It was beautiful. It was every kind of New Yorker, and people told me the stories. So that was a 190-year-old bar beloved by the community this close to going down. You know how many weren't saved in time. You know how many are teetering on the edge right now. There is a study in this city that says there are 12,000 vacant storefronts right now. I mean, think about that number. I want to ask people here in this room, have you gone down a block in your neighborhood and it looks like you almost can't recognize it because there's so many closed storefronts? Who has had that experience? Right, look how many hands go up. Something is happening. It is happening so fast, it's almost been impossible to make sense of it, but now we know. 12,000 vacant storefronts by one cut, but imagine for a moment, what if that was 2 times that many? What if it was 3 times that many? What would that mean for our neighborhoods? So we have to do some very different things to address this challenge. First, when we came into office, I said we would cut small business fines. I want to thank the City Council. They've been right there with us. We have cut business fines by 40% since the beginning. We're going to cut them again. We're going to put $6 million back into the pockets of small business. I hear all the time from small business owners how hard it is to make sense of the city bureaucracy. We're starting a navigators program. If you own a business, if you're starting a business, there's somewhere to turn where a human being will actually help you get the things you need from government. Keep your small business going. This next one is crucial. Too small to fail. Let's turn the equation on its head. Country did backflips to save big banks. Why don't we do everything we can do to save small businesses? That means we're going to give them lawyers to help them negotiate with landlords. That's what a lot of small businesses are asking for. That means we're going to give them low-interest loans because a lot of them can't get capital anyplace else. That means we're going to work to pass legislation for full disclosure of everything that's in their lease and everything that might cost them money, because a lot of times they don't get that whole story from the landlord. We need to pass that legislation as part of this initiative. But we got to do more. Our pension funds are there to support the future of our retirees, but we can do a lot more with that money at the same time. I'm calling for us to commit $500 million in pension fund money to local small businesses in New York City. Let's invest in them. Let's go to Albany and deal with something that's driving me personally crazy, and a lot of you as well. You've seen a storefront that's vacant for 2 years, 3 years. Guess what? If a landlord leaves that storefront vacant, hurts the community, makes the community less whole, deprives someone from having that storefront so they can be part of our community, then that landlord needs to pay more in taxes. They need to pay if they're going to do that to us. And this last one, I am going to be scrupulously honest. For years and years, I've heard different proposals around commercial rent control, and I have not for one day been able to find one that I thought was legal. That's the truth. As appealing as the idea is, I couldn't find one that's legal. But I think the time has come to settle this once and for all, because we, at this point in our history, we may need this to be able to save our small businesses. So I will name a commission, just like Speaker Johnson and I named a fantastic commission on property tax with extraordinarily talented people. I'm going to name a commission of people of different viewpoints and different expertise to come back to us once and for all this year with an answer. Is there a legal way we can have commercial rent control in New York City? That is the answer we need. And if it's a yes, we should go to Albany and get it done in 2021. So when you think of our neighborhoods, then you think about the most obvious question in the world: can you afford to stay in your neighborhood? You love it, it's part of who you are. Will it still be part of who you are? How on earth do you afford to stay in the place you love? Look at this video.
Bill and I met in 1991. I was living in East Flatbush. He was living in Astoria. It was not a great commute. In the early 90s, Park Slope was very different. And, Dawn, hi. Hey, Marty. The rent was $1,000. That was way too much for me to pay by myself, but together we could do it. It was the first place where I felt like I wanted to stay for a while. This was an owner-occupied building, so there's 1 bedroom, and it had a very small extra room. The bathroom was very small. I remember giving Chiara and Dante a bath and sitting on the toilet seat to do it. It brings a smile to my face because I remember, oh, that was Dante's first laugh. When we moved here, it was actually a renter's market. That's not happening anymore. That's just so out of reach for someone someone in their first or second job, it won't be the same as what we had. The reality is to find a place to live the way we did back then, it's not possible.
So, Shirlane's right. It's not possible for so many people right now. I do want to note, when I was in Astoria and she was in Flatbush, that's what you call a long-distance romance. But the fact is, we were starting out. We got together. We wanted to have a family. We took it for granted we could find a place to live in New York City. And for the generation coming up now, they just can't feel that anymore. And we got to change that. We can't have a city where its own people feel it's not going to be theirs in the future. And I said, we tried all these things that we thought would be the difference makers. But the world around us has changed very rapidly, and it's time to do some very, very different things if we're going to keep this a city for everyone. So first, we have to reform our property tax system. It's not fair. It's not transparent. It's not equal. It's time to change it. For folks who, unfortunately, are not even able to conceive of a place to live, folks who are homeless on our streets, we have to commit ourselves to the Journey Home plan that I announced in December, and I want to be clear. This is way out on a limb, but it's what we have to do. We have to end homelessness as we know it in New York City. And we truly believe, for the first time ever, because of Homestat, because of an initiative that's reaching people like never before, that we can end this horrible phenomenon of a person who's on the streets for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. We can end that once and for all. Are you all ready to be a part of that? Because we can do it. Our housing authority has gone through extraordinary challenges, 40 years of disinvestment from the federal government, but we are starting to turn it around. $6 billion investment by the city of New York, 62,000 apartments that will be fully rehabbed, as will their buildings. It will not be easy, but we can turn things around piece by piece for 400,000 New Yorkers who live in NYCHA. We have to do that. And then this phrase is a new phrase, and it's a new idea, and it's a new approach. Your Home NYC. This will now be the umbrella for all of the affordable housing policies that we put into play. You're going to see this now all over New York City. It's going to be an indicator of everything your city is doing to keep this place affordable for you. And we're going to be changing some of the elements of our affordable housing program. One of the things I've heard most from people all over the city is that we need affordable housing to reach people with lower incomes, people who are struggling in this city. So to start 25% from this day on, 25% of all new apartments will be guaranteed. At least 25% will be guaranteed for families that make under $30,000. And we will keep growing from there. But even more important than the new apartments is preserving apartments in place for struggling New Yorkers, working New Yorkers. Preservation, subsidizing apartments so working people can stay in them. This is the single best tool we have to fight all the problems we're seeing with gentrification and rising prices. When we preserve an apartment, it means that family can stay there for decades and pay only 30% of their income in rent, whatever their income is. In the next 2 years, we will reach 78,000 more New Yorkers. We will keep them in their apartments, and they will be able to afford those apartments. That is what your home will be all about. Here's a new idea. How would you like to rent an apartment and not have to pay a security deposit? Raise your hand if that sounds like the right thing. Right now, under the law, you only have one option. You have to pay up front. We're going to work with our colleagues in Albany, in New York City, to first give you an option that instead of a single payment, you can pay in installments and lighten that burden, because there's so many New Yorkers who just can't get an apartment because they can't put together the money for the deposit. But second, there's a legal way to do this. Imagine if you only paid a little bit each month for all the time you were a tenant. So you never had to shell out a big chunk of money. There's a law that could give you that right, and you could say goodbye to security deposits. The next one, we have to go to Albany and get this done. There are 900,000 apartments in this city that have no protection. Millions of New Yorkers, no protection against rent gouging. The landlord can jack up the rent as much as they want for no reason whatsoever. That's one of the reasons so many people can't stay in this town. We want New Yorkers, all New Yorkers, even if you're not currently in a rent-regulated apartment, we want you to have protections. We want you to be able to have a rent that you can actually pay, and we want to make sure that you can renew your lease and not just be thrown out for some arbitrary reason. We need universal renter protection. Finally, this is another new direction we need to go in. People are desperately concerned about things being privatized around us. I understand that. I hear all the people saying, can we find ways to keep affordable housing in the hands of the people? Can we make sure that things don't get privatized? One of the most promising ideas is community land trusts. So I'm announcing today this will now be the policy of the City of New York. We're going to start with 3,000 New York families who will get affordable housing through community land trusts, and we can expand that to tens of thousands of other families in the coming years. I said before, this land is your land. Community land trusts guarantee that this land will always be controlled by the people. So we're going to take on this affordability crisis. I've said it's bigger than we even imagined. We're going to take it on. But the last thing I want to talk about today, and I'm sorry to have to say it this way, but it's true, it's an even greater crisis, and it goes far beyond the boundaries of New York City, is the existential threat to all of us, but those who feel it more deeply, those who are scared in their hearts, in their souls, are our children. Look at this.
New Yorkers don't do anything half-heartedly. If there's something that we want, we will get it. My name is Rebecca, and I am a climate activist at the 9/20 Youth Climate Strike. It was a speech in front of 250K students, and that, like, I could barely give a speech in my own school, so doing that was one of the most, like, nervous moments. If you translate that hope that we have from the youth into actual actions and take us seriously, then there's so much that we can do. They might see it as like a little kid project, but no, it's the stake of our whole generation. Here we are, we're trying to fix the earth, and that shouldn't be our responsibility. We should be in school, we should be studying, but all that's on our mind is what's to come.
That last sentence from Rebecca, all that's on our mind is what's to come. Imagine that. Imagine, because for all of us who didn't grow up with this threat, imagine it looming over you every day of your life. It's the only thing you've ever known. That's what our kids are going through. So I got asked, as did the chancellor, what we're going to do about the idea that our kids might walk out of school one day. Not something we took lightly at all. But we had to think about this through a prism we've never had to consider before. This is about survival. This is about their futures. We will not be here for all that they will experience. So the more I thought about it, the clearer it got. This was not about our kids trying to take a day away from us. It came down to this for me: if we didn't give them that right to stand up for their own futures, we'd be taking something away from them. Last year, we introduced the New York City Green New Deal. We worked with the council on the strongest law on this earth to retrofit our buildings to stop emissions. The city has been taking step after step aggressively to protect us against climate change, to do our share. Cities all around the country doing the same, but you know what? Again, it is not enough. We now have to devote ourselves to something much more difficult. We have to be ready to commit ourselves to strand those fossil fuels in the earth, in the ground, once and forever, where they belong. They will only endanger us and our future. It is difficult to wrap your mind around a world without oil and gas. We've all grown up with it. But brothers and sisters, if we don't get away from oil and gas, there won't be a world for our children and grandchildren. And we are one of the leaders on this earth. We have to show by our own actions what can change and must change, and that we will prove in our time these changes can be made, and we will save this earth for our children and grandchildren. Rebecca's going to help me out here. The first thing we have to do is end the use of plastic bottles. We're not going to buy any more. The City of New York's going to stop buying them. We're not going to allow them on city property anymore. They are made of fossil fuels. They are hurting the earth. We don't need them. Time to get rid of them. Thank you. It's good to meet you, Rebecca. Thank you for all. Let's thank Rebecca for all she's been doing. Tish is creating controversy over here. You hold that 1 second so I can speak into it. Rebecca, this is for you and all your classmates. This is one step, getting rid of the plastic bottles all over the city of New York. The executive order is signed. Thank you very much. We'll be back. Next, we can't just talk about change. We have to do it. We have to lead. And so, what we're going to do today is give an order. Every city car, every city truck, every city bus, every city ferry will be converted to electric power. Why, look, Rebecca's back. Rebecca, I'm going to tell you that this is going to be something that happens so quickly that starting this September, city school buses, some of our city school buses, will be electric for the first time. Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. You say you wanted to get involved. Well, we are leaders on this earth. Are you proud as New Yorkers to be leaders on this earth? Always showing the way to a fairer society, a better society. So Governor's Island is going to be the place in this country, one of the places on this earth that will lead the way. Governor's Island was the very first part of New York City to grow in its modern form. It will now be the place that leads the world in the innovations, in the research, in the activism to address global warming. That will happen right here in New York Harbor. We also believe, since we are the center of so much innovation and entrepreneurship, that we should lead the way in the new emerging wind industry. So we're going to invest $57 million in the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal to make it the staging area for the development of wind power off New York. And by the way, for any people who say And they have every right to ask the question, what happens to people in those old fossil fuel jobs? We don't want to hurt the people who do the work. We don't want to hurt hard-working New Yorkers, hard-working Americans. We want to give them new jobs in renewable energy that will help us to the future. Next, we're going to double the use of solar power here in sunny New York City. 50,000 New York homes will get solar power on their roof. We're going to have a person you call, a human being, who will help you to get solar on your roof, and you will not have to pay upfront costs. The city of New York will make sure that solar gets to you so that you can have a green future. We are going to fuel all of the electricity needed by the city government and a lot more in the city, not with fossil fuels, with hydropower. We will make a deal this year to bring hydropower to New York City. Patterned after that extraordinary retrofit law for our big buildings, we're going to take the next step. For the largest buildings in New York City, we will work with the council on a ban, ending the use over the next 2 decades, ending the use of oil and gas in our buildings, replacing it with clean electricity. And finally, I know for a lot of us, and I was one of them, it was hard to take in the notion that we were just going to cancel everything that we've depended on for fossil fuels. It kind of doesn't make sense when you first hear it. But it's something we have to do to survive. If we don't break this addiction to fossil fuels, it will break us. We have to overcome it. And so I'm announcing an executive order to end the creation of fossil fuel infrastructure in New York City once and for all. See, Tish, Rebecca's learning this for when she's mayor one day. There you have it. Let's say goodbye to fossil fuels in this city. Thank you, Rebecca. So, we got to act in a different way. We have to overcome the status quo that's been handed to us. Everything today that I've talked to you about is about thinking differently, and I said dreaming differently, being ready to do things we thought we couldn't do. We have to fight. And I want to remind people there's a lot of fighters in this room. There's a lot of things we fought for before. There's a lot of times that we overcome extraordinary odds. We're going to need that spirit now. Sitting next to Charlene is a dear friend, Julia Boyd, and I want her story to inspire us. Her family moved to Harlem in the 1950s. She got involved in that community as a teenager. She moved to Brooklyn. She has been a community activist every day since. Stand up, Julia, stand up. Julia has gone through many struggles, but she doesn't stop fighting. But when I saw her with Charlene a few weeks ago, wanted to visit her and support her as she's dealing with challenges. First thing she said in the door is, we've been fighting together for the 99% for a long time, and we're still fighting today. We're still trying. We're still trying. Her spirit is the one we need to understand. We don't stop, even when the odds are tough. And this is what ultimately gives me hope, is that I will have the honor of being in this fight with all of you. And I know what you can do. I know what New Yorkers can do. Tengo fe, porque estamos juntos en esta lucha. We're together in this fight as New Yorkers. We've proven what we can do time and time again. We've proven it for the last 6 years. We've got a lot more to do. I can tell you, I'm very moved by what we've achieved together. I'm moved that we got pre-K for every one of our children, but I'm not satisfied. I won't be satisfied until we have the best public school system in the United States of America. I'm proud of all of us that we got rid of a broken policy of stop and frisk, but that's just a beginning. I won't be satisfied until we stop crime before it even happens by reaching every one of our young people. And all of us together have created a lot more fairness for millions of New Yorkers, but I will not be satisfied until we change the rules of the game altogether. It will never be easy, but it can be done. If we fight like our city depends on it, if we fight like our neighborhoods depend on it, if we fight like our lives depend on it, we can make that difference. We can use our power, our collective power. We can dream differently. Now, when you walk out this door, you can actually set your watch by this. Within a few minutes, you will start to hear people say to you, "This is impossible." Here's a blueprint. Choose your favorite item, and someone will start to tell you it's impossible. They'll say it's crazy. They'll say it's too much. They'll say it will kill jobs. They'll say it will ruin economy. They've said it so many times before, they were wrong every single time. If we had listened to those naysayers, we'd still have stop and frisk today. If we listened to those naysayers, we would not have paid sick days for a million more New Yorkers. If we listened to those naysayers, we would never have tried to do pre-K, let alone 3K. So we have to remember who we are. We are New Yorkers. We do extraordinary things all the time, don't we? So let's do something extraordinary again. Let's not just bend the status quo. Let's break it. Let's break it and create a city that really is for everyone and will be for generations to come. Let's go save our city. Thank you.